Everybody ready? Are we all suitably refreshed?
Do you need a mic to ask the question?
You just have to bring it over to me.
Give it a shot.
Okay. I think first how we're going to do this is the questions online, because we'll get that out of the way. So James is going to just go through what we've got. Sorry, one last thing, I'm sorry.
Pass me that microphone.
Sorry guys, I want to introduce everybody on the board, because it's a new board. Sorry, I'm going to start on the first victim. Just see you. Cheers.
Hello, evening everybody. I'm Paul Taylor. Some of you hopefully may have bought a fanzine from me at some point over the last few years, because I still technically edit more of the monster trucks. Spent a lot of time having a go from the sidelines, but it felt time to start actually doing something meaningful about what's going on. So looked to get onto the board. I've just retired, so I can do it. Got the time, so that's why I'm here. And for me, it's all about everybody feeling that the trust is them. So people saying, what are the trusts doing about it? It's actually the trust is all of us. So it's listening to people and you know, all being involved in making a difference if we can.
Evening all. I'm Ian Simpson. I'm a fourth generation Wednesdayite. My great granddad was an original shareholder once upon a time. He sold it, much to the family's disgust. But was involved in stuff around Save Our Owls back in 75, 76. When I did my first bit of protesting, or cash raising actually, for that campaign with schoolmates. Now live down in Hereford, but obviously still an avid Wednesdayite. Just had our first grandchild. He got his Wednesday kit for Christmas. I want there to be a football club that he can be proud of, to come with me and go to with his kids in the future. Chance's made a total pig of it, so I wanted to roll my sleeves up and help do something about that.
Evening everyone, my name's Steve Chew. I was involved in a couple of initial meetings when the Trust first started up, but didn't really get heavily involved at that time. I always thought there would be a time when the Trust was really needed, and I think that day has definitely arrived. It arrived some time ago. So that's why I stood for the board. I'm a freelance charity consultant, and back in the day I was communications manager at Sheffield Wednesday for about 7 years.
Evening everyone, my name is Mark Johnson. My dad carried me over the turnstiles in 1966, so it's his fault. I was still trying when I was about 15 because it's a tight gate. One thing I've been doing over the last few months, I've been to the last 2 SAG meetings, so you might want to ask a few questions about that.
James Silverwood, founder member of the Sheffield Wednesday Supporters Trust. I was chair for the first couple of years. I was in those meetings with Steve when he very helpfully gave us some advice about starting up an initial strategy, and recently re-elected onto the board.
Evening everybody, my name is Rob Brooks. Like a lot of the other people, I've been around and working with the Trust for some time, but not actually stood for election. I was one of the organising people who tried to set up the umbrella group a couple of years ago, which eventually proved to be unsuccessful. I've been working with one of the working groups of the Trust on some detailed work on background to Chancery's businesses and various other things, and decided it was time to step up and join the board and help everybody move things forward a bit. So that's it.
I'm Feroz Mackenzie. I've been a board member for about 3 years now, or just at least 2. I was sort of helped set up the umbrella group, which I think was torpedoed by the club, and was supposed to be set up to work with the football regulator as it came in and sort of combine all the fan groups. That obviously the club decided that wasn't a good aim. We've been working over the last year to respond to the dire situation that's been going down and down. So yeah, been involved in sort of starting the protests up and all of those things. So yeah, any questions on what we've done over the last year? Happy to answer.
Hiya, I'm Ian Bennett. A lot of people know me. I travel home and away, been a Wednesdayite all my life since I was a 4-year-old. Got on the board a couple of years ago, and very proud to have been nominated as chair last year. And we've done everything we possibly can, organising protests, etc., etc. It's good to see a few people here this evening. I thank you for turning out, and hopefully we can get rid of the clown that's in charge by fair means or foul. But I think we've got to, yeah. So thank you. That's the introduction. There's other members of the board that are either online or have accepted apologies. But I think we've got a good team together here now. So I'm really proud of what's happened over the last few weeks. People stepping forward and coming on board. So at that, after the introductions, I'm just going to hand over to James, who's got questions from people online.
Yeah, so the first question is around refunds for season tickets. Could you push for refunds on North Stand season tickets, please? We will legally be entitled to a partial refund as we've bought a product or service which they haven't provided. I'm not going to sit in another part of the ground as I come down from Sunderland myself, and I've been made a nice community around where I sit, plus half the players we were promised when we bought the tickets have left the club. So yeah, just around, has there been any work on season ticket refunds or anything like that?
Yeah, so we've got, I'm going to stand up, I can't do this from a sitting down position. So we've got, we have lawyers now who are working with us free of charge. And they basically set out for us a very clear legal process that we have to go through when it comes to refunds. The first part of that is the call for information, which sounds really dull, but what you have to do, unfortunately, is you have to understand how different people with different refunds have been treated by the club, what responses they've got, what responses they haven't got, perhaps what has been said to them. And that allows the lawyers to then analyse that and basically say, yeah, this is unfair, this refund has been successful, this has been denied for unfair reasons. And that will include the North Stand stuff. So what we would say to everybody is, if you are a North Stand season ticket holder, can you put in your claim for a refund as soon as possible? Okay, when you get that message back, okay, you need to tell us what that message is, because our lawyers need to know that information. The email address you need to send that information to is swst_refunds@outlook.com. We need that information because we can't proceed it until we know what the club are telling you, okay? Once we've got that information, then we'll send it to the lawyers who are working with us, and they will start to process the response that we will be given. And I know that's not a great answer because it involves time, okay? But if we're going to do something legally, we've got to make sure it's done with advice, because the last thing the trust wants to do is give people wrong advice, maybe get them into trouble, or maybe make them waste their time by making a claim that's not going to be successful. So we're going to try and get it right. That does mean it needs to be perhaps a little bit slower than we would all like, but by getting it right, we've got the most chance of getting you the outcome you want.
Let's have a look. We've got a question.
Sorry, could I just add a couple of words on that answer? Although it is taking time, and it's an evidence gathering process that we're going through at the moment, it's really important that people act quickly on it. Because as soon as you take up your seat, that's regarded as an endorsement of the contract. So your chances of getting any legal redress after you've actually taken up your seat it diminishes enormously. So anybody who is thinking of putting a refund request in, get it done quickly before you take up your seat on the first game, because after that you'll have a lot of difficulty getting anything back.
Another question on the strategy. So what is the Trust's protest strategy going forward? What powers as a Trust do you have? The lads from the 1867 group did a great job in getting things going, and we need to be more militant. So what are the Trust going to do to get the national media's attention, and are the Trust willing to take ideas on protests, and do they have a protest group set up?
Yeah, so we're absolutely willing to take ideas, 100% willing to take ideas. Basically, the strategy is to hit Chancery across every single possible angle that we can think of, and we think there's 4 main angles. So one of them is financial. That's the refund stuff, that's the merchandise and retail embargo. We're going to move on that as well. We've got other areas to extend that into. We've got legal stuff around some great work by Rob around, I don't know if everybody knows, I know it's starting to gather, the rumours starting to circulate, but the club at the same time is not doing the safety work on the north, have installed a facial recognition program, software in Hillsborough. Okay, and they've not, we are pretty sure they have not done the proper legal due diligence that they needed to do to implement that process. So we're in the process of challenging that with the Information Commissioner. The other angle will be regulatory, so we're talking to the EFL. I can give you a verbal update on that meeting last week. It was not great. The EFL were pretty shit, to be perfectly honest with you. Completely got their head in the sand, but we are trying to tap as much regulation stuff as possible. We've Rob, through Clyde Betts, is forming a relationship with the new regulator. And then we've got matchday protests as well, and we're very close to announcing Leicester, and we're very close to announcing Stoke. We're hoping we're going to get sign-off of the new board from that in a meeting tomorrow night. So we'll be able to start comms in that and announcing it, hopefully even maybe tomorrow night or at Friday at the latest. They are a step up from leaflets and turning your back. Okay, so I can't tell you what they are at the minute because it does need approval, but it's not just leaflets, it's not just turning your back, it's much more than that. So they're the 4 main angles that we're hoping to hit. I think we've got a question in the room, James. Is that okay if we do that one maybe?
Just wait 2 seconds. Trying to stand up. Press the power button once.
Hey, sorry, while you're on about the angles you can hit Chancery at, in relation to the North Stand ticket sales, is there not a criminal element you can pursue him for because he's sold tickets to a stand that he knows he isn't safe?
Well, as I mentioned, I was at the SAG meeting. The process actually is that the Sheffield City Council oversee the safety, and what happens is that the club provide a structural report on the ground.
Yeah.
And for the last few seasons, so up until the end of last season, Eastwoods have provided a letter of comfort, what they call a letter of comfort, that means that the work hasn't been done, but the stand's still safe to sit in. They will not provide that letter of comfort this year, and therefore the stands become unsafe from that point onwards. I think part of the legal issue you're probably raising is around the reports that Chancery had done in February.
It's more the fact that he's known that for a long time that the grounds needed work. Yeah, it's only this season that a certificate hasn't been granted.
Yeah.
But even as far as yesterday, there was still tickets for sale on the North Stand,
Yeah.
knowing full well that that stand isn't safe for fans. And is that not a criminal? You know, it's endangering people. It's a health and safety issue, and to a point, I think it's a criminal matter.
Well, it would be great if it was a criminal matter, because that would be the one thing that would help the EFL to help us to remove him.
Right.
But we're going to have to go through that process of finding out whether it is or not. I think one of the big issues that we have around this is that, as far as we know, he's not done anything that's criminal. It's actually pretty horrible what he's done, but it has to be actually criminal in law, and you know, some of it might be morally reprehensible, but in reality, as long as he's had the safety certificate, he's had the cover, because it's actually given him the ability to keep the stand open up until this season.
Just to add, it's often the case that health and safety executive only start prosecuting people after an event has happened. So, you know, the fact that it's in disrepair, there hasn't been a serious injury or something worse. So it's probably quite difficult to go down that route under health and safety law at least.
On a similar sort of vein, and as the gentleman has just said, surely, obviously you guys are a lot more in the know or knowledgeable than me, surely anybody who's sat on the SAG, whoever it is, and I don't want to point the finger at you, but you just said you sat on the SAG, if any person on that committee sat on it and they're aware of the Chancery report, what he knew, that it was in disrepair and wanted repairing, surely they become complicit in it all. And I'm talking people, senior management at Sheffield Wednesday, I'm talking Sheffield City Council, I'm talking a police on SAG. Yeah, the police, look, anybody at all who's on that SAG panel, board, whatever you want to call it, we've already had people dragged in front of court many years ago, Hillsborough disaster, Graham McCrell, when he was the club secretary, company secretary at the time, and other people, they've all been dragged through the courts. Surely people like, let's call them Chancery's closest confidants in Trevor Braithwaite and Alistair Wilson, surely they're aware of it, and surely Mr Paxhow is aware of it all, but yet it's just flying in the face of danger. And for a chairman who keeps going on about family, you know, he's totally disregarded 8,500, 9,000 supporters who sit in that stand and their family. I sit in there with my 14-year-old son, and I have done for the last 5 seasons. I sit in T1, you know, I'm 63. I stand there among, and there's not just kids in there, there are pensioners in there. I sit behind an old lady. She gives sandwiches out and sweets to the kids, to these young idiots that fans will gladly slag them off. And they are a bit daft, they are a bit young, but they're like we were 15, 20 years ago. They're growing into it. In 15, 20 years' time, hopefully there'll be another set of lads in T1 or wherever we're playing our football. But my big point is, these people on the SAG, they need to have a good look at themselves and say, yeah, I knew about that back in November or December when that meeting was, when Chancery was informed, and say, have a look at yourself in the mirror and say, why didn't I stand up and say something? I'd ask that question tonight to Alistair Wilson, to Trevor Braithwaite, to the police. I'd even ask it to you, and I've never met you, and I know you're trying to do good for us, but there's got to be some level of responsibility from somebody somewhere who was put out. He stuck his hand up and said, come on, I want your 800 quid for your 2 seasons.
If I can answer it then, I think you know, what has happened is that since 2021, there's been issues with the North Stand that were highlighted by the structural safety engineers. And they're the experts in the matter. And there aren't just issues on the North Stand, there's issues on the West Stand, there's issues on the South Stand, and there's issues on the Cop. But that's the same for every ground of an age that Sheffield Wednesday's ground is, that Hillsborough's. And I sit in the North Stand as well, and my family sit in the North Stand. But every year, the responsibility for ensuring that stand or ground is safe is the structural engineers. And they have to sign off that it is safe. So everybody else sat in that room isn't an expert. I'm not an expert in structural safety. The police aren't, Fire Brigade aren't, Sheffield City Council aren't, Alistair and Trevor aren't either. It's up to the structural engineer to say, yes, it's safe for people to sit in that stand next year. And up until this year, despite the club not undertaking the work which they should have done, and that is very true, since 2021, 2022, the club had contractors ready to go in that stand, but they didn't do the work. But it was still safe, as the structural engineer said it. Now, what's happened in the last probably 12 months is that the club were given a final ultimatum, really, to say, you need to do the work by the end of 2024, because you'll not get a certificate next year. So the club didn't do the work in 2024, it hasn't done the work until the end of 2024-25 season, and they didn't start the work in the club season either. So it wasn't until the middle of June, well after the end of the season, that they started to think about doing it. And what happened is the structural engineer said, we can no longer sign off this stand as safe for people to go in. So it is only since June 2025 that the stands become unsafe when those experts said it. Now, you know, everybody else in that room, including Sheffield City Council, relies on those structural engineers to tell us when it moves from being work that needs to be done to when it's actually safe. And so they're the experts, so that's where it is. Yes, it's wrong, and we should have done the work earlier, but in terms of it being safe to sit in, we have to go by what the experts say.
Another question online in regarding finances. Can we survive on TV money alone? There will be no ticket sales. Obviously, North Stand customers move into the empty seats and very little merchandise sales. So yeah, a bit on the finances. Are we at a sustainable level, I guess? Can we survive on TV money alone, basically?
I mean, he could, but not with a competitive team. Certainly not in the Championship, which is essentially what he's doing, which is to reduce costs to an extent where he might be able to run it off income, which is why we've done the merchandise and retail boycott, because we need to. If we're going to start, if we are saying enough is enough, okay, and we are saying he's got to go, we've got to start doing things we don't want to do. He doesn't play fair. Chansiri's never played fair. Since day one, he's basically declared war against the fans, pretty much. He's called people who are liars, who are honest as the day is long. He's turned fan against fan. He's to ban people from the ground who have exercised their legal rights or just merely said, I don't want to come anymore. So he's never played fair. And I think we have to get it into our heads that we can't carry on being Mr. Nice Guys. We are going to have to play dirty as well. We're going to have to stop spending our money. We might have to start skipping games. We might certainly shouldn't be buying early bird season tickets, in my personal view. That's not a board decision, by the way. In my personal view, okay? We're going to have to play dirty, okay? Because if enough is enough, okay, and he's got to go, then we're going to have to prove it by our actions. That's my challenge to you, as well as to us as a board, okay? Are we prepared to do the things that are going to force him to go? Because other owners in the past of other clubs have stopped funding and they've reduced the costs to a level that can be afforded by fans going through the turnstiles. And the club has gone to League One and it's gone to League Two. You can think of Portsmouth as an example. Okay, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility that what Chansiri is trying to do is reduce his costs to a level that he can afford off the income we provide him. So we are going to have to stop providing with income. Okay, so don't buy the new shirt. If you can, obviously, if you're diabetic or you've got kids and they're thirsty, buy them a drink at half-time or whatever. But if you can avoid it, don't buy a drink at half-time, forgo your half-time pint, even though you're probably going to need it this season more than ever, right? Frequent your local businesses in the local community, spend your money there, okay, instead. We're going to have to start fighting dirty, because if we don't fight now, in 6 months' time, there's a good chance that there's nothing left to fight for, okay? And I don't mean that in terms of survival, because our Sheffield Wednesday is going to survive and it's going to thrive, okay? What I mean is in terms of competitiveness on the pitch, which is already being decimated with the players leaving, okay? In terms of what we stand for as a community, standing together, fighting for each other, believing in something. If we don't take a stand now and do the difficult things, okay, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse, because there is a future where he reduces his costs, okay? And we plummet down the leagues. It's happened to other clubs. There's no reason why it can't happen to Sheffield Wednesday. Okay, so we've got to be prepared to do difficult things and make difficult decisions.
Just wanted to make a point. There's a lot of misconception about the so-called TV money. There is no TV money as such. What happens in the funding? There's the money that the club generates itself from ticket sales, merchandising, sponsorship, and so on. And then you have central funding. And the central funding consists of a basic award from the EFL. And the basic award includes the TV money, and it also contains what's called the solidarity payments, which are payments made by the Premier League to the EFL, which gets distributed to clubs. So the basic award that comes into all EFL clubs is dished out, and we were able to find this out at the last EFL meeting, because we were unsure whether Chancery was due for a big windfall of so-called TV money. The EFL confirmed to us that that money is paid out throughout the season on a monthly basis. So there's no big award of TV money suddenly coming Chancery's way. It amounts to about £460,000 a month, the basic award from the EFL. And that includes the TV money. Not all the TV money, because as well as the basic money that's from the broadcasting rights, the clubs receive money for each game that's actually televised by Sky. And those are called facility fees. So the clubs get an additional fee, whether it's a home game, there's more money for a home game than an away game. But that's not known at the beginning of the season. So that's not distributed by the EFL. That's distributed so you don't know whether you're going to be on TV 3 times or 4 times or 7 times. And then the final payment is made is a thing called a ladder payment, and that's paid out by the EFL to clubs at the end of the season, and that depends on your finishing position in the league. So at the beginning of the season, that's not known, so that's not distributed in these monthly payments from the EFL. So just to knock on the head this misconception that there's a big pot of TV money coming Chancery's way, there isn't, because he's getting it monthly. So if he's not being able to pay his bills now, he's not going to be saved by a big pot of TV money that's coming his way.
Just a quick one. There's many EFL clubs that have been in this situation, and there'll be many more to come. Has any members of the trust board been in contact with other fan groups to choke his income from away fans coming to Leppings Lane? Cheers.
The answer is we have been in touch with other fan groups. Obviously, the obvious one is Reading, who were very successful in what they did, and Blackburn, yeah. So we are talking to other fans. I agree with James that we've got to choke it now. Choke is money, right? But the problem is, most of the people in here want to go to a football match. I do. And it's very, very difficult to break that habit, yeah? I think we have got to make, and James said, we've got to make really harsh decisions about it. I have a 3-year season ticket, and I don't miss games, and I'm absolutely itching to do that. Now, we're going to offer some alternatives, as James has said, very soon, about protests about the next 2 games. No, the answer to your questions simply is no, we haven't asked other fans not to turn out for the reason I've just said. I think it'd be very difficult, especially away, because as everybody knows in here, Wednesday's away supporters second to none. I think the less the tickets are on sale and going well.
That's it. I'm similar to you. I travel away, but we're not funding Chancery by travelling away. All we're asking is other 23 championship clubs to bear in mind what we're going through when we're trying to choke this chairman, and it's
a good idea.
It's just an ask.
So we're on the Championship EFL network, so we meet up sort of every couple of weeks. We'll discuss it with the fan groups, whether they would put it to their members, whether it messes with it. Who knows? They obviously, everyone loves an away day, so it's going to be a hard sell to other fans, but we can ask them. So yeah, there's no harm in that.
Cheers.
There was something I wanted to add about the protests, that we are going to put together a secure drop site, and one of the things that would be useful is people who have information about what's going on at the club, if people haven't been paid, if suppliers aren't being paid, what's going on, if there's fraud, if there's anything like that. We're going to set up a secure drop where it's completely anonymous. Anybody who wants to put information about what's happened at this club, and maybe they don't want their name attached to it, we will take that information. We're talking to national journalists, local journalists, and we will try and use that to put the story together, the case of exactly what has happened here. Like, we all know something doesn't smell right, and we're just trying to piece it together. So in the next few weeks, we will be putting together this anonymous secure drop site, which a lot of news agencies use to protect sources. We'll be doing that. And so if people want to put information forward, please look out for that. We'll be putting it through the Trust database, Twitter and everywhere else. So please look out for that.
Hello? Oh, I'm on. Right. It's not really a question, this one, because I know most of these guys. It's more a call to arms than anything. I've been involved in protests from 1867 times right through to now. I'm just a trust member. I'm not on board. There's things these guys can't say. One thing I'm going to say to Sheffield Wednesday fans across the board is don't treat these guys like the past protest groups got treated. Let them put their ideas forward. Decide whether you like it or not. Have your opinion by all means. But you've got to back them. It's all we've got left. We had a protest group, got scared out of town. So whatever these guys put forward, back them. If you want to do something more, more than what they can offer, their names are out there. They can't do certain things that I'd like to do. They can't throw their elephants in fucking Don. Right? They can't storm pitch. There's things they can't do. So everybody needs to have patience with these guys. And give them a chance to have a go back at this guy. They're doing a lot of unbelievable work behind the scenes, things that people don't see. I see things on Twitter. Trust aren't doing things. Trust are doing amazing work, right? And this is like financial checks, legal checks. They're trying to do everything they can. Like, don't treat these guys the way that we were treated when we ran in leaflets out getting spat at. Back them, and let's all get together for once as Wednesday fans. Let's all stick together and let's have a go at this twat and get him out.
Just a question on the Football Governance Act. So what actions can be brought via the Football Governance Act to help bring about positive changes at Sheffield Wednesday, starting with the ownership?
What can the club governors still do for us? Well, it's a big question, really. At the heart of the new legislation is a licensing system. When the regulator gets up and running, every club will have to apply for a license to operate. If you don't get a license, you can't play football. You can't compete in any of the leagues. So the first thing will be this licensing system. The system will have conditions attached to it. And for a club to get a license, they have to produce business plans. They have to have strategic business plans, 3-year business plans. They have to prove that they've got a functional board of directors with non-executive directors on it. All kind of things that are normal in well-run businesses are going to be essential before you even get a license. And all clubs are going to have to apply for a license and prove that they're able to do that. So the bill's going to be able to do a lot of things on that side. In terms of financial management, they will be continually monitored to make sure that they're running the club sustainably and that they're running the club with financial responsibility. On the fan engagement side, it gives fans the right, for the first time in law, to be consulted properly by clubs. Not just on the price of pies and how long it takes you to get your pint poured on the concourses, but on the strategic business plans, on the strategy of the club, on the business priorities of the club, all kinds of things where we've been trying to get Chancery to answer questions on for years, and he's blanked us and he's told us to go away and said it's none of your business. Well, in law, from now on, it is our business. The legislation and the government have said it is our business, it's the fans' business, it's our club. So all those things, potentially, the regulator and the football governance will bring to the game. So potentially it's a game changer, but it won't be a game changer if we just sit back and wait for it to happen. it's an opportunity for the fans to step up. And that's one of the reasons why we will strengthen the work of the Trust Board and the Trust in general, to make sure that we make absolute full use of the legislation and the powers in the legislation and the new rights that we have as fans.
Just one thing I would add to that, and it's a note of caution. Obviously, the Football Governance Act is now passed, and the regulator is coming into train. It's not going to happen in time for us in terms of the next few weeks. You know, the regulator won't be properly in post until October. Then they're going to have to set up a load of processes and actually how they're going to operate. And so I think if we're thinking that the regulator's going to swing into action immediately on the 1st of October and help us with our situation at the moment, I don't think it's going to come in time. So we need to carry on everything that we're doing. As you've heard, we have got a meeting with the regulator in the diary in September, but in reality, they're not going to be able to take action very, very quickly.
Got a question here. Can you outline what action is being taken if the worst happens and we need a Phoenix club?
Okay, so we've had following on from the Supporters Trust conversation at other clubs, we've had a conversation with Leyton Orient because they had to go through this process. So Phoenix club planning, like, obviously it's difficult. It contains way more than anybody ever thinks, because you can't just think, well, we're going to set up a football club, we've got to go find a ground to work in. You've got to make applications to join leagues. You've got to basically know the creditors of the old club. It's a whole range of work we never knew. So basically, post AGM, we are going to put a team on it because it does need to be done. It's important work. We're doing some work in the sub-finance group as well around potential investment proposals, which we need to first of all take to the board and get that signed off and then present to members. In terms of what we possibly fans could do in the future if things get worse, because there are examples of fans stepping up and playing that financial role in a catastrophe, in a crisis of even greater, worse proportions than we have now. So we're going to be doing that work as well. Basically what we're going to do is be responsible, and we're going to plan for worst case scenarios and hope for the best, because that's all a responsible organisation can do. So those plans are going to be put in place. We are going to be forwarding them. Some are more advanced already than others. Members will be informed all along the way. We will be presenting them at things like this to hear your voice, to be able to build on your feedback and get that voice heard. So we are doing that work. I absolutely assure you it is being done. We don't always publicise everything we do because we don't want to be alarmist. But at the same time, it is important work that needs to be done, and it is being completed behind the scenes. I absolutely promise you that.
Can it get any worse? The other thing probably to add to that is the most successful Phoenix club is AFC Wimbledon, probably, when they were franchise FC took them over. They started off in the 9th division, I think it is, and they've reached Division 1. They own their own ground in London, and they are absolutely willing, and they'll bend over backwards to help us if we have to do it. So, God, we don't want to have a Phoenix club, no, but if we have to do it, we'll do it.
Yes, and the other supporters trusts have supported us in that process. Those who've gone through that, they are offering support behind the scenes. So we are making use of our network, so to speak, to help us get that job done quicker than later.
Another question, what about the false Bangkok report? Is this not deception? Obviously referring to the North Stand stuff that came out yesterday.
So the false Bangkok report was presented to SAG, I think in the March or April meeting, by the club as a second structural report, because they didn't like what the first one said. And when you look at the report, if anybody's seen reports of this type, you'll see that it didn't quite look right. It's been published online. It's I think it was on Owl's Talk just after it came out, and it's you can get it through Freedom of Information, so it's out there in the public domain. If anybody wants to Google the address of the company that did it, do so and have a look where they're operating from. And you can also Google the company themselves, who've got 5 Google reviews over 6 years. But to be fair, they are 4.8 stars, so you can see why we went for them. It is absolutely nothing like what you would expect from a professional UK company, which the club had already. Why they went to Bangkok to get the report, we can't answer, but we probably suspect why. To be fair, again, to the council, they rejected that report and didn't take that forward. The club then got a 3rd structural report which said that the first one was what we should do anyway. So that's where the report is. I mean, the question being about what kind of deception this is. Well, if it had been taken up, I guess, then clearly it would have been actionable. But of course, Sheffield City Council couldn't let that go forward. So at the moment, it's just why anybody would want to put a safety report that's done by in some back room in Bangkok, and we all have our families and kids in that stand, and what do you think about someone who would do that? Probably to try to save money. I don't know really, but that's the level we're at, I'm afraid. But yeah, it's not great.
Another question, has the Trust's merchandise embargo been effective? Is there any indication of sales of the new kit?
The answer to that is very. I understand that the first day, although this don't include internet sales, 29 shirts were sold. I think that's effective, isn't it, guys? Yeah. You can't encourage people to buy stuff on DHgate, and my grandson's screaming at me for a Wednesday shirt, so I've done it. I've got one off DHgate. I don't want to put any money, or as little money as possible, into that idiot's pocket, right? The quality of the stuff on there is probably as good as what he's selling anyway, so it's terrible. But as far as I'm aware, and speaking to the guys in the club shop, yes, extremely effective. And I'd like to carry that on into the season. Don't buy anything in the club. Don't buy anything in the bars. As James said, avoid your half-time pint. Don't buy a pie. As effective as possible, yeah. But great. It's only a drop in the ocean, but it just proves that fans can do something. And I'm proud of everybody for not doing it. Thank you.
Obviously, there was a post the other day about people to come forward if they've asked for a refund or not. So I suppose this is off the back of that. Someone's asked, has anyone actually been successful with a refund at all?
Yeah, so this is all preliminary, but people are still sending emails in, but basically, from what we can tell, there was a period in April where people were getting refunds, and then basically the volume got so high that obviously somebody noticed and told the ticket office staff to stop giving people refunds. And after that, people started getting pretty much word for word, roughly the same reply. What we've noticed is since the call for information is that reply that people are getting, they're still getting rejected, but instead of a brief email basically saying no, they are starting to get some more conciliatory language kind of saying, oh, we appreciate your support and thank you for not proceeding with the refund. So it has been noticed. They are, obviously they've tried to change track, the club, be, I suppose you might say, a bit kinder in the replies they're saying, because some of the replies to the refunds were rude and a bit brusque, shall we say, but that's what we've come to accept in how they treat us, and that tone has changed. It has been noticed by the club. There are some particularly kind of unpleasant examples of refunds not being given. There was a dad whose son got a contract to play semi-professional, couldn't make the games anymore, wasn't allowed a refund, was provided proof of his son's status at a club, wasn't provided a refund. And there are unfortunate circumstances around some of our disabled supporters who've been basically said, look, our disability stops us from attending games anymore, and those refunds have been denied as well. So there's some really horrible cases coming out of refunds that have been denied that are just, as we've come to expect. I mean, Mark mentioned earlier, we don't know why he would compromise safety in the North Stand, and part of that explanation is definitely money. But the other explanation is that he thinks and treats us like shit. And he has no respect for us. He's never treated us with any form of dignity or respect. And that is why he's willing to do things like this. And it's as simple as that, I think.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dave. I've travelled up from Gillingham in Kent for this tonight. I'd just like to, despite the Wales shirt, I'm a Wednesday night. I've just been looking at the Women's Supporters Group. They're asking questions about the facial recognition software. What is the idea about that? Should the fans not have been consulted about that? And that's what they're asking about. So I just thought I'd just put that out there. Thank you.
The legal bar for introducing facial recognition software in anywhere, let alone in a football ground, is really, really high. Even where the police have tried to use facial recognition software outside grounds, it's been challenged through the courts, and the High Court have actually ruled against the police for trying to do it. And the club have tried to do this without any consultation, and so far we don't even know if it's been used, but it's part of the CCTV system which has facial recognition capability. So we've got a letter prepared. We've been working with a lawyer on how to tackle this issue. And we're almost certain that the club hasn't gone through all the regulatory processes it needs to do, with consultation with the Information Commissioner's Office and all kinds of legal barriers about consent, giving people redress, giving people options to request information about how much data is held, how it's held, who it's processed by, which third-party companies are involved in the whole process. So there's just 1,000 questions that we've got for the club, and we prepared this letter which is going to go off to the club very shortly to ask all these questions. I mean, they may come round and say, yeah, well, the CCTV system we've got has this capability, but we're not planning to use it. And they've got questions to answer for that, was why the hell do you waste money on it when the North Stand was falling to pieces, investing in expensive surveillance technology when you're not going to be able to deploy it. Anyway, that's something that we'll learn once we get the answers back from the club. The lawyer that we've spoken to said there's enough legal complexity in this to keep the club tied up for months and months and months, to the extent that they'll wish they'd never even thought of it. So that's what we're going to be doing in the future, is actually time up in knots with this stuff, working with the Information Commissioner's Office and make sure that it doesn't get deployed. The FSA, at their annual general meeting in Manchester, passed a resolution saying that the FSA were going to oppose the introduction in football grounds of facial recognition technology, and they will run a campaign against it. So they're really interested in working with us because we're the test case. Last week in the EFL meeting, we asked how many clubs out of 72 in the EFL were deploying facial recognition technology. They said as far as they knew, it was none. So we're the first one that wants to adopt this technology. Why? I don't know. You've got to make a very, very... We do know, yeah, it's for surveillance, yeah. I think he learned his politics in North Korea. We all know that. And so there we go, with the facial technology system.
Sorry, I was just going to add that the reason why we know that is that we attend SAG. I mean, we don't take matters on structural decisions, but what we did notice on the minutes is that minute 3 was the club telling us all about the new CCTV system, which had facial recognition technology, and they were investing in that, and they were doing it for close season. Item 4 was the North Stand, where Sheffield City Council were asking, have you done the work? And they were saying, no, we might do it in the summer, and they haven't. So we'll be putting something out about that tomorrow, but that's the reason why we're on SAG, representing fans.
Do you know how much it's actually cost, facial recognition stuff?
We don't know, but we hope to find out.
just one additional point on that. I'll pass it on there.
It's just a quick one. We know they're doing surveillance because the last 2 games, in my seat in the grandstand, I was followed around by a guy in a high-vis jacket, right behind me. I had my 2 daughters there, and he was following me all over the grandstand. So they're picking out people, and they are following them around. And when they have this system, they'll do it to everyone. Just got to ask this.
I'm going to back that up as well. There's about 20 of us sit on the cop and have done, and we sit there in the same position that we stood before the seats were on the cop. I think it was the next to the last game of the season that suddenly a steward appeared on the end of the row, keeping an eye on us, obviously trying to see or do, if you do something that is wrong, like we all do, jump up, swear, do anything, they're going to try and get you thrown out. Imagine if you've got facial recognition and they know who you are and what they can do. Everybody does it, everybody shouts, everybody screams. That actually blew up in the face, because one of the guys who was sat with me, I said to everybody who were around, let's behave today, we don't want to hear any bad language. At half time he went to the toilet, shook the steward out away and told him to go away, yeah, and he didn't come back. But it proves that they've got that attitude, that they spotted 2 or 3 members of the board, and somebody who's not on the board now had the same in the north stand. Davey Adams sat near him, yeah. So that were 3 of us in one game that Adam sat near. If they're doing that, what can they do to everybody if they've got facial recognition? Yeah. Yeah, they're picking people out. That's the thing. Now, if it's... And I said something last night on the radio, and I shouldn't have said it. I said if they're using it for the right reasons. I actually don't think that it should be in there, and I hate it. It's like Big Brother's watching you. But I said something, but the reason was, if it's for the right reasons, for instance, what the Bradley Lowry thing or something, could have been easily spotted. But it's not, we know it isn't, and if nobody else is doing it, why should we be the ones that have to suffer for it? Sorry guys.
Can I just add something? When I went to Cardiff away this season, I've got a flag which says Chancery out on it. Nothing racist, no derogatory language. And I actually had a Wednesday steward confiscate it off of me and tell me that I can't bring it to an away game. What has that got to do with Wednesday? I've got a fire safety certificate and everything. So what's that got to do with Wednesday? What's that got to do with the stewards? They shouldn't be able to actually confiscate that off of me. And they've said, they're threatening banning me if I bring it again. And I've actually spoken to South Yorkshire Police's Wednesday's main police officer, who said that they shouldn't be able to do that, and they can't do that, and that if I ever have any problems, again, that I need to go and find him.
To be honest, it's a disgrace. I mean, Jake sat here, we went to Watford, and we were handing leaflets out in the filter into the ground. And as soon as we set up to hand them out, the guy you were on about, the guy who's the spotter at Hillsborough, was sat watching us, never moved, waiting for us to make a move, waiting for us all the time. It's a disgrace. That's Big Brother's watching you. End of the day, with Wednesdayites, we're entitled to his opinion. He shouldn't be able, unless it's something that's racist or it's something that's against the law, why can they do that? If, as you said, we've got a flag with a fire safety certificate on it. I've got a flag that we've had in memorandum on one of the lads who committed suicide, and we take that. It's got a fire safety certificate. Nobody's ever banned us from taking that in. Why are they doing it now? It's ridiculous. Why? This is our club. It belongs to us. I don't care what he says. When we say he's the custodian, he's not even that. Right? Why is he being allowed to do that? I don't get it. But it's throughout the club. Throughout the club. I went into the club shop to speak to some of the girls the other day and remind them that this were on. And remember, I've been in before and somebody nearly cried. And they worried about him coming out, or Stan or Stanford, whatever his name is, security guy. Keep an eye on them. They've been told not to say anything. How about that? These people might not have any food in the cupboard. We've got money for them and they're scared to apply for it. What's that? How have we got in this position on top of everything else that's happening? It's an absolute disgrace. The sooner we get rid of this geezer, the better. And it's any way for me.
The problem is with this though, it's making us look bad as a fan base and it's making us look weak to other clubs. You see Man United, you see Tottenham, all these teams who are protesting every week, they've got the flags this, that and the other, and we're not supposed to take our flags in. Is there any way we can get these flags in and not get banned? You know, it's not got, he can't make a legal case against us. I mean, how can he ban us for just taking the flag in? Now, I want to take this flag in against Stoke. Now, I'm not being funny. You lads are doing a great job, yeah? I know people in here are not going to agree. We have to go on that pitch. We have to go on that pitch, and that first game of the season should not finish. We have to make a bigger stand than what you guys can. We have to start disrupting every single home game. If it's for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, or just getting just one game. We just need to get one game, like that Reading game, completely wiped out. That Reading game, when they went on the pitch, it was news for 2 hours on Sky Sports, nothing else. We have to do it. We have to be big enough and bold enough as a fan base. If that means it's an 100 underground and say we're doing it, we need 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 to go on the pitch and do it. My thing is, 20,000 can go on a pitch at the end of a playoff final, semi-final. Why can't 20,000 go on pitch to have a go at this twat? We have to go on the pitch. We have to do it. We have to just say, we're going to be big enough, brave enough. If 10 people get banned, yeah, it's no good. But you can't ban anybody. There's going to be nobody left. We have to go on the pitch.
The only thing then, you'll just get the cops involved. And people will start getting arrested. You know what cops are like with football fans, they'll start using the truncheons and the riot sticks. So I agree with you, mate, but it's just going to...
No police in the ground.
Yeah, but they'll soon come in, won't they?
No.
We know we're on backup all the time, don't we? I mean, I agree with him, but it's not... You're just going to get people arrested.
I don't know.
And they'll get locked up if you start doing it regularly.
No.
We don't want anybody being 6 months in jail, do we?
No.
But I agree with you.
No, when the Reading fans went on the pitch, the police weren't involved. As far as I know, stewards went on the pitch.
No, is it?
Yeah.
That's on South Yorkshire, though, is it?
But it's not a police matter.
How soft the Thames Valley police.
But it's not a police matter. As long as we don't do anything on the pitch, we can't do anything.
I just want to add something before this guy speaks. The only thing is, it is illegal to go on a pitch. We can't condone that, right? We can't condone that. But if anybody who isn't a member or an individual and they want to do it, we can't promote that. But you're right. Something drastic's got to happen. Yeah.
How can we do it unless we've got a group of people? We need 100 to 200 people who are willing to just say we are doing it. Because unless we've got 100 to 200, we are going to get dragged off by the stewards. As long as we can get a couple of 100 people who've got that bollocks to do it, I'll be first and not. Yeah.
The problem, I think, the problem different between.
Like you said, it's illegal to go on a football pitch. So how can 15,000 people go on a football pitch at the end of a playoff semi-final? It's only the same thing. It's illegal. You don't... How many people get banned? You don't.
The only thing I say to that is, I don't think it's about being banned, because they'll ban you for taking in a flag, they'll ban you for whatever. But it is an offence, right, under the 1991 Football Act. I'm not going to comment on what you want to do, but I think it's worthwhile people knowing that you can be arrested and you can be prosecuted for it. And people will do what they want, but I think it's important people know that.
I'm back again. Right, just before this turns into a free-for-all arguing about what we should or shouldn't do protest-wise, you're bang right, it's illegal, you can get in trouble for it. These guys can't tell you to do it, they won't tell you to do it. So as a fan base, we need to come up with something in the interim before it gets to the point that we're going to have to do that. But the important point here is nobody can tell anybody what to do. In the same way they can't tell you to lift a flyer up, and we had all that shit before. They can't tell you to lift a flyer up, they can't tell you to throw a tennis ball on pitch, they can't tell you to run on pitch. Nobody can tell anybody what to do. Do what you feel is right. Right? Yeah, I actually mentioned that earlier. I'm sorry I'm gate crashing here, but I did actually mention this earlier. Buy a referee's whistle off Amazon. Where's camera? Buy a referee's whistle off Amazon and blow the fucker throughout the duration of the game.
I just suggest that Sheffield Wednesday Trust use just stop oil tactics of using geriatric demonstrators, because then they don't get any, they wouldn't get any sympathy by arresting such people in a horrible manner, would they? So I'm willing to do anything, and I'm a geriatric.
Probably one of the youngest in the room, and I'm being totally honest, I don't want to go next season. I'm not going to enjoy watching us lose 6-0 every week against Leicester if we're fielding the kids. The only thing that we need to do against Leicester, against Stoke, we need to be on that pitch, we need to be in that centre circle. We need fans to actually show some bottle, because this fan base is weak. It's very, very weak, as we've seen. Honestly, everyone who was helping the 1867 group, all they did was get countless amounts of abuse. And yes, I've helped the 1867 group from minute one, and I'll continue to help in any protest, but the only thing we need to do is get every single game stopped. We need to show, excuse my language here, this cunt, that we don't want him here anymore. We need to get rid of him. And the only way we can show him that we're going to get rid of him is get on that pitch, get in that centre circle, and stop every single game and make him suffer by making him get fined.
My question might be over there, but
question, yeah, I'd like to ask the trust. Why am I stood here? I don't know. I've just done a day shift. I don't want to be here. Yeah, but I'm here because I think it's got to that point where when this con man becomes a little footnote in Sheffield Wednesday's history, I want to be able to turn around and look my grandkids in the eyes and said, I made a stand. What did you do, Grandad? I did this. This is what we did. Because I don't want this guy to think that he's playing games with me. Because to me, like I said last night, gloves are off. One thing I'd want to know, I know you guys have got some plans for the protest. Every single thing the 1867 group did, turn your bike, leaflets, I supported. But what came out today, what got revealed on Radio Sheffield, I think it could be a massive thing. What we do, it's got to be not local, it's got to have an impact on a national basis, if not international. But what really come out today, because things are coming out on a daily basis, was the revelation that some of the players are actually talking about going on strike. Now, this could be absolutely huge if the trust had any contacts at the club where they could say, we'll support you in this. Because can you imagine the impact? The first game against Leicester, I mean, it'd be fantastic if they did it. Turn up, and then when referee blew his whistle, them lads just walked off. that'd be seen around the world. Now, if we could get a liaison between any contact at the club to say, look, we will support you in this. If you want to walk off, we're behind you. I think that could be absolutely huge, and the staff as well. These poor people, the impact on these people, getting the creditors. Can you imagine what they're going to be going through when they get the credit files and things like that in future? It's incredible. If they were to walk out, everybody wants to walk out and everybody will be supporting them. But the impact that these players, if they did it, and they've got every right to do it, because imagine if I haven't been paid for 3 months, I won't be turning up tomorrow. It won't happen. But if we could liaise with these players, what's left of them, and say, look, we'll support you behind this, because that'd have, whatever you've got planned, and listen, I'm saying it, if you went on pitch, I've backed everything so far, I'm going to be on pitch. But we've got to be, like you said, gloves are off. Like one or two people have said, we've got to be really clued up over this, what's going to have the biggest impact. And if we can support the players in it, if they're going to go on strike, let's get behind them.
I have got a question, just one bit on the protest thing. Have you got any plans to do a sit-in?
So, not at the moment. So the first 2 games don't include a sit-in, slightly different thing, but variations on that. Sit-in's absolutely something we would consider. I think it's a great idea. Yeah, 100%.
It's best being done before the wind returns and
yeah.
cold.
No, I agree. I think it's a great idea.
Pissed off and don't turn up.
I think it's a great idea, yeah. 100% think it's a great idea, yeah.
I think what's worth saying is, the passion that people have got to save this club is incredible, and that's everybody, to be honest. Everybody who's turned up tonight, everybody who's trying to make a stand against him. One thing we've got to do is we really do have to stick together, because the only way we lose is if everybody starts to fall apart. People are going to protest, people are going to be doing different things, and we need to support everybody's type of protest. People are going to be able to do, things that we can't. We can't say whether we think that's right or wrong, But he's got us to that situation. Now, I think we're going to have a short break in a little while. So after your question, we're going to have a little break and then come back with more questions after. Thank you.
It's more of a suggestion in relation to the Stoke game at home. There's a way you can protest without doing it inside the ground, and that's stop the away team, the home team, and everybody even accessing the ground in the first place. Whether that's just blocking the entrances, blocking the main roads. There's ways that way that you can do it, where if nobody can get to the ground and the game doesn't happen, then you're not encroaching on the pitch, you're not breaking the laws in them respects, and you're keeping it peaceful. It's just an idea to throw out there that might be another way of doing things.
As soon as you do that, you are outside the stadium and you've got the police out. You can't block people going into the
But it's peaceful process. If you just stood there at the gate, I don't mean standing on the roads, I just mean across the gates of the ground. You could get that going on the pitch though.
We don't want to stop debate, but we've got other things to talk about as well. We've done that really, really well, and it's been incredible how people have responded to that. It's very hard not to nod along when you're on a camera, to be honest, when people are saying things. I'm like, yeah, okay. So we're just going to have how long break? 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll take some more questions. The club have just announced we've got a new sponsor. It's Carpet Dave, moved over from Royal Oak, as I understand it.
7070.
Yeah, the question is kind of off the back of the players and staff not being paid. And
525. 7 and 6, 76. 7 by itself, number 7.
The microphone's working.
yeah. Yeah, so the question's off the back of the players and staff not being paid. Obviously, there's rumours that the players, are going to strike and take strike action and not turn up for training, not turn up for games. What's the trust stance on that?
Yeah, if players are going to do that, obviously we'll back that fully and we'll come out in the media, etc., and back them. What a fantastic thing if that happens. It proves. I mean, the tweet from Deschamps Bernard last night, what happened while I was on Radio Sheffield, I couldn't believe a player was saying that. I was glad he did. And I'm glad it shows that there is some, passion amongst the players. Instead of them all running for cover, I'm glad that somebody spoke out, yeah. But if they are going to go on strike, we'll 100% back it. Absolutely.
Another question in regards to the North Stand. Does anyone know how much the repairs to the North Stand will cost?
It's just going to be a quick one. No, we don't. I mean, I think the difficulty is that what the repairs were required in 2022, the stand has got worse, and there was another survey done in 2025. So it's the same specification, if you know what I mean, the same work, but there's more of it. So I'm not sure we've got an actual cost of what it is, and not being, someone who can understand what that work would cost. All I can say is obviously there's a scaffold involved, there's obviously welding, they've got to strip all the paint. I don't think the stand's been painted since 1986, and it's only got a 27-year life cycle, so you can work that out. It's kind of, probably since about when Chancery came in, it needed painting. So there's some significant work to do. The other thing probably that we can say on that is that the work to get the stand safe isn't all the work that needs to be done. So what the club we understand trying to do is do all the work to get it safe, and then the safety certificate can be given. So there will be other work that needs to be done, probably under the stand as well, and it'll probably go on for longer than this season, the work that needs to be done. But the safety work doesn't need to go on that long.
There's been discussion about the megastore and the ticket office. Does the sort of structural stuff, does it affect those, or?
Yeah, there's different legislation for the store, but what it is, obviously, it's adjacent to the stand, and part of it is virtually under it. So if you've got a stand that's structurally unsafe, and you've got people working underneath it, that's not a great look, is it? So, but I don't know what the actual answer to that is. It comes under a different part of the legislation, but yeah.
Is there any indication that the work has been started, and how long is
Well, I just drove past it now, no. No, I can't see anything. If you're going to do work of that size, you've got containers on site, you've got scaffold going up, you've probably got cranes, stuff like that, skips. Couldn't see any of that. I mean,
Is there an indication how long the work might take as well? Has that been discussed at all?
No, but I guess, if you're thinking about setting up a scaffold and setting up a site compound, getting subcontractors involved for the main contractor, and then actually doing the work, signing it off and getting the certificate. You're looking at 3 months, something like that possibly. That's just an estimate. The whole works themselves, as I say, will take longer than the season.
Barnsley had their half-air stand closed, didn't they? A few years back, and that at least 4 months. I can't see it being open this season. How does it pay for it? Where does that money come?
Well, the next thing is the reason they need a contractor on site, because they won't pay up front first. I went to the club shop a couple of weeks ago and there were a load of heavy engineering stuff, I thought, on the Tuesday when the SAG meeting were on. And I thought they'd started, and it turns out there's a sinkhole in the car park. So they're repairing the sinkhole in the car park, right? And that's due to the fact that when they pulled the houses down, they didn't fill the cellars in correctly, apparently. So, false hope again. Walked in, thought, fantastic, they started the roof. There's something else. But again, why would you do that when there's a safety aspect on the stand? Why would I don't understand the logic behind it all. But I think the short answer is we don't think so, no.
It's a bit of a crazy question, this, but we're going to go to a ground next season. Obviously, there'll be people in here who sit in that stand who are going to actually look at their seat with his name plastered all over it. Is there any way you guys can speak to Sheffield City Council and can we actually just have that covered? I know Chancery's not going to agree to this, but can we actually ask questions? Because it's just completely insulting to the fan base, this. You know, it's bad enough having a stand closed, but to have his actual name written all over it, reminding people, in a ground synonymous with disaster, is absolutely scandalous.
Yeah, I think that is a point we can just write to the club and ask them. Yeah, we'll get a response that's probably derogatory and usual response, but again, for me now, anything that don't fit or doesn't help, we need to go public with, just to kind of keep the pressure on. And yeah, we can ask the question. There's not a problem with that.
Does the trust have any plans to set up a fan fund by means of monthly payments to put us into a position that if this ever happens, basically in regards to a fan-led buyout, basically?
The simple answer is yes. For Rose will try and explain.
Yeah, we are looking at options for the Phoenix Club, how we could fund a fan buyout if it went to administration or HMRC put us into receivership. There were no other bidders. We're looking at sort of structures where sort of high net fans could put in a certain amount, sort of various different people who have different levels of amount they could put in. We could sort of structure it, and there are plans for that. Is it ready to go tomorrow? No. It's a complex thing, but we are looking at it, and we would try and enact that if it was looking like it was coming forward. But we're not ready to go tomorrow, is the honest answer. Any other questions at all?
Yeah, throw it out to the floor.
Thanks, James.
Hi, I know there's lots of rumours how much he wants to sell it for, but do you know an actual price what's the actual price that he wants to sell it for, if he's intending to sell it for? Chancery on about.
We've heard different options, different things, very much like yourselves. James, unfortunately, is not here at the minute, but we've been in contact with the guy who's actually selling the club, and these various figures being bandied around. I wouldn't want to say, because it seems that 1 minute he lowers his price, the next minute he puts it back up again when he thinks he's on top of things. We haven't got a clue. We don't know what his realistic sale price is. We hear numbers and then they change the next day. So we're in the dark as much as you are. James, actually coming back, you might be able to expand on that.
I think it's clear he's messing everyone around, isn't he? So.
I just wanted to add something to that. It doesn't matter what he wants to sell it for, it's what somebody's prepared to pay for it. And there's a massive gap between those two things, unfortunately, so he can ask what he likes, can't he?
Yeah, so one of the things we've done during the summer is the finance team that I spoke about at the last event. They've been absolutely incredible in the last few months at going out and making contacts and networks with people across football, but particularly in different brokerage firms that we're in regular contact with, people who maybe on an individual basis who work for finance related firms in the football sector, but also people in football more broadly. So we're in contact with various people who run different football consultancies. So we're in touch with, for example, a guy called Richard Battle, who used to be head of strategy at Everton Football Club. And basically what we found is that within the world of football, Chancery, and this will shock you, has pissed so many people off that there's a lot of people who are willing to help us for free. Okay? So we've managed to make some really good contacts, and I'm not suggesting in any way, shape or form I know what is going off in the sales process, but we have had people in credible positions feed us back what they know. Okay, and the problem that we are getting reported is, and this again won't shock you at all, the problem at Sheffield Wednesday is not willing buyers. The problem at Sheffield Wednesday is a willing seller. Okay, even now. Okay, so that is the fundamental problem, and that is why we need to be taking the actions that we've been talking about today to convince him and force him to sell to the best of our ability. So we need to be match day protests, we need to cut the money off, we need to be making legal challenges, we need to be making regulatory challenges. We basically just need to do everything we possibly can to basically make his life so miserable he finally decides to sell. And I hope more than anybody else that tomorrow at midday a takeover is announced and I look like a fucking idiot. Okay, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But we've got to be prepared, and the trust has to be organised like he's going to be here for a long time. Because that's the only responsible thing to do. Because Sheffield Wednesday, okay, it might survive, but it will be an organisation that is even in a worse shape than it is now, and that is possible. It's going to be possibly do a Portsmouth, it's going to go down to League One, could even go down to League Two. So we have to behave and organise ourselves like he's going to be here for a long time, okay, with the effort to convince him to go, because Sheffield Wednesday as we know it, okay, it can get worse and it will die. Not in terms of its existence, Sheffield Wednesday is going to survive, but in terms of, right, being what we know it can be, okay, in terms of offering something to the community, looking after each other, okay, the best that Sheffield is when we stick together, okay, when we as one come together and say, we're not going to be bullied, okay, we're not going to bow down to some rich boy from Thailand, okay, who thinks he knows best when he quite clearly is incompetent and a fool, okay, we have got to stand together and we've got to take the actions necessary to convince him to sell. And hopefully it will be tomorrow, it might be 6 months, it might be a year, but we've got to refine that tradition that Sheffield has, okay? In the 19th century, it was our granddads and great-grandparents, they fought for the right to vote for working people. During the wars, went and fought in the wars, and it was our sisters, mothers, grandmothers who went into the steelworks and kept those steelworks running. Okay, in the post-war period, we were fighting for better wages and better conditions, and we've got to find that passion, got to find that fight back in us again, because he might try and cling on, and he has got to go, because Sheffield Wednesday is going to die if we don't take action and we don't fight. So it's got to be now, it has to be now, everything has to be on the table, okay? The trust can't say anyone break a law, we can't do that, but we have to be willing to make difficult choices. We've got to fight now, because if we don't, in 6 months, in a year, there might not be anything left to fight for. So it's got to be now, okay?
Sorry.
There's another question. Yeah, another question come in just saying, do we know of anyone at the table in terms of potential bidders for the football club, as you know?
I'm afraid not. There's been people around, I think there's still people interested, but officially I don't think there's any bidders at all at the moment. And I think there's a couple of reasons why. One, we think the process is flawed, or there isn't a process. And two is what we spoke about earlier, different values on the club that are way above what people are willing to pay. Somebody spoke earlier and said it's only worth what people want to pay. That's true, and the difference between that and what I think Mr. Chansiri wants is vast. So it's a massive problem, and until he comes into the real world, I think we're going to struggle.
I think it's clear now. Chansiri is just messing with us. He's just going to take the club down because he's going to teach us. We've stood up to him. We said, no, you give us a plan, or we'll give you a plan. And he said, no, you plebs, you can't tell me that. I'm the big man. And he's now bringing the club down. So, and that's what it is. And he's not going to sell unless he's forced to sell. Basically, that's where we're at.
What's the overall message been like from the EFL? Because I think they've been quite lenient. And have you had like any information that impending points deductions on its way?
So we had a meeting last Thursday with the EFL. Technically, I'm not meant to tell you anything, but to be completely frank, they were so fucking abysmal that I don't really care what they think. The head... Thanks for that meagre round of applause, I appreciate that. So Rob was at the meeting as well. Steve, who was here with us previously, was at the meeting. Their understanding of what's happening at Sheffield Wednesday was shambolic. They don't have the first idea of what's happening at Sheffield Wednesday. They don't have the first idea of how bad it is. Subsequently, the reason you haven't seen any minutes is because they have been messing us about with the minutes, trying to take things out that should be in because they were said, and now they're trying to take them out. And myself, Rob, Steve and Clive have pushed back on that and said Sheffield Wednesday fans deserve to have that information in there. Briefly, we were told that yes, this is less than a week ago, by the way, of course. We were told that yes, the financial situation is bad at Sheffield Wednesday, but it's not as bad as it was. We were told that EFL regulations do include things around safety, but even if the North Stand is closed, the EFL won't take action because Sheffield Wednesday still has 3 stands. We were told that about ownership at the club, yes, they do know how Chansiri is being funding the club, but they won't tell us. We were told about the sales process. They said, well, that's your closest way out of this predicament, and Chansiri's publicly acknowledged that he's going to sell the club. So you need to wait for that for a solution, to which myself, Clive and others said actually everything we're hearing about the sales process is that it's less than credible. So they had no idea about that. That was complete news to them. Okay? And I think you deserve to know, and I think that they are hiding behind rules. One thing we know from the last few decades is rules are rules until somebody in power decides they aren't rules anymore and they're okay to change. Well, the EFL are hiding behind the rules, okay, in terms of not taking the action necessary that they need to do. And I was so disgusted by that meeting at how out of depth in terms of their knowledge of what's happening at Sheffield Wednesday. I don't feel any obligation to meet the requirements of that meeting in terms of confidentiality and stuff, because they are not going to turn up and save us. They are not, the EFL is not riding into town in armour and a white horse to save the day. They will do as little as they can. So the other thing that came, just to give you a final illustration of that, we questioned them about competitiveness of the squad. And they basically said, look, if Sheffield Wednesday, all we care about is if Sheffield Wednesday fulfil fixtures. We don't care if you're competitive. I said, well, you brand yourself as the most competitive league in the world. How competitive is that going to be if every Tom, Dick and Harry comes to Hillsborough and get 3 points? They said, don't care. As long as you're fulfilling fixtures, that's all that matters to us. As long as you're financially sustainable, whether that be Chancery running it to the ground and running it off what fans put in, that's all they're bothered about. So they ain't coming anytime soon to save us. We're going to have to save ourselves, I'm afraid.
So I was at the first EFL meeting. So I was at the first EFL meeting. It's clear the EFL's paymasters are the owners of the club. That's what they're there for. They're there to protect all of those, and it's all from them. They do not care about Sheffield Wednesday. No surprise to anybody, and they're not going to come in. Our Hail Mary was we found some information that Chancery had done something wrong. There was some criminality, there was something, he was money laundering, he was doing something. Unless we get that information, if anybody has any information we could use to prove that, the likelihood is the EFL might do something. If we don't have that, they will protect the owners of the clubs, one of those being Chancery, and that's it. That's the bottom line. They don't care about football or football clubs.
Press that button once.
If the EFL don't care, then why don't we just get coaches to the EFL and protest outside EFL's headquarters? Then they'll listen.
And as much as we could protest against them, I promise you, mate, it won't change their mind. I'd love to, I mean, maybe we could do it. I'm not against it for sure, but it 100% won't change their mind, I promise you. They're not going to do anything.
But the headquarters are in Preston, if anybody wants to know.
If they're aware of how he's making his money, and they aren't revealing that, does that not make them as complicit as everybody else in what's going on?
Well, we've asked for that. It was a very pointed question that was put at the end of the meeting. First of all, they said there's a new unit at the EFL that's working for about the last year or so called the Club Financial Reporting Unit. And they said they do have the powers to find out what the sources of funding is when they're trying to work out whether a club's got enough money to keep going to fulfil its fixtures for the season. So they said, but it's completely confidential, we can't tell you anything about it. So we then put the question to them, so do you know in the past where Chancery has been getting his money from to fund the club? And they said, yes, we do, but we can't tell you.
I think, if anybody came here tonight for some good news, we've failed to provide it, but what I think, we do have to say is that all we've really got to offer is, blood, sweat and tears. There's often, I think, well, it can't get any worse than that, and the day after it does. It might be that today is the worst day that we have and everything gets better from there, but whatever we have to do, we have to fight on, because there will come a point when things do get better. It's happened to other clubs. We might not think it has, but it has. Other clubs have been in terrible situations as well. It will get better, just probably not yet. And the light at the end of the tunnel is the light of the oncoming train, as they say. But if we do keep it going, we will win eventually.
Just saying what you're saying about EFL. Bit soundsy not getting much joy from EFL, but then going back to what these guys were saying about invading pitch, I know some want to do it and some don't want to do it. Is that going to give EFL a bigger headache if you invade pitch? Because then it is really invading pitch, you're putting onus on them to go. Basically, these supporters have gone on pitch. Now they've got to do something, basically.
so the pitch invasion stuff in terms of a headache for the EFL, it's actually more of an FA issue. So points deductions are actually handed out by the EFL for like disciplinary regulation breakages, but points deductions for are handed down for on-pitch protests by the Football Association. So we spoke for Reading, and actually they said was if you think the EFL are a bit weak and hard to deal with, the FA are impossible to get hold of, full stop. They just won't speak to fans on any way, shape or form. And they'll give you a points deduction at the drop of a hat for pitch stuff. Now that's not a reason for us not to do things that necessarily bring points deductions, but just to say it wouldn't cause a headache for the EFL, and I don't think it would cause an headache for the FA other than a bit of bureaucracy and form filling in, unfortunately.
Did Reading get a points deduction for their points? I don't think they did.
I don't know. I mean, we had a meeting with the Reading Sports Trust and they mentioned a points deduction for something, but I don't know if it was for that. It might have been just EFL breaches of like financial regs and stuff.
So we're going down anyway. I think everyone can agree that. So why don't we invade the pitch, right? A few points deductions not going to mean anything in this season. So every single game we should be on that pitch.
I just wonder, could you say something about your contacts with the PFA? Because there seem to me to be a lot of issues about, as well as pay, there's issues about young player welfare, emotionally and physically. So a whole range of issues, and very brave of Dishon Bernard to say stuff and come out. But players, I guess, have got to think about future careers, young players particularly. So I just wonder what your take is with the PFA, kind of locally, regionally, because they can't be very happy about what's going on.
Yeah, so the PFA is a great idea. I must admit, I'm not sure anyone else on the board hadn't had that idea, but it's a great idea and it's something we can pretty much get in touch with them straight away. Do we want to further shit on the EFL and talk about the player welfare stuff? I mean, we've started, we may as well finish.
The EFL were incredibly complacent when that issue came up. We said, would you be happy to see men against boys at Hillsborough every Saturday, every home game or in every away game? Because they said, other teams that have been in your position have used players from their academy and from their under-21 side to fill up the squad. And I said to them, well, would you be happy to see us fielding men against boys? With all the player welfare aspects of that, of the young players that have not had a proper pre-season, playing above their level, playing above their age, playing in front of fans, it's enough just to destroy you psychologically if you're getting hammered 6-0 every week against teams that are much better than you. And they said it wasn't their problem. They were completely complacent about that. And they said, we do acknowledge that there may be player welfare issues involved, but we don't really care. So I think the idea of contacting the PFA is a really good one.
I think we're going to start wrapping it up soon because we don't want to get into a Chancery length meeting. There's another 4 hours to go if anybody really wants to do that. Are there any final questions? We could probably take another couple more.
Yeah, just one more. Has anyone approached the principal club sponsors, Mr. Vegas, Vizu, MKM? Surely these companies don't want to be associated with Chancery, another way of starving him of money.
I mean, Mr. Vegas came in a few weeks ago, didn't they? So obviously they do. I don't know if anybody else has got any other info on that. It's a long shot. It's not something we've done yet.
Right, just finally from myself, I've tried to be as diplomatic as possible in the past with different fan groups, with everybody, and trying not to be controversial, but I will say this. We know, and James has touched on it, how passionate people are in Sheffield. We know how passionate Wednesdayites are, right? We've got to pull together. We've got to do this. Nobody's going to come and help us. The EFL aren't, definitely. I don't think Chancery is going to put everything in our way to block it. I sympathise with these guys who want to run on the pitch. I can't say to them, we can back that. But you've got to remember that there are consequences. I don't care I think this guy will prosecute everybody to the nth degree of the law if he could, just to prove a point. Just be wary about breaking the law. Having said that, we want as much visible protest as possible. We want that passion to come through. I'm calling on everybody in this room and, as a call to arms. I'm calling on every Wednesday night that's listening. I hope this gets broadcast on the internet and gets as many views as possible. But I'm calling on them all to pull together to please, 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 let's get this guy out of the club. He's killing us. We've heard all the evidence. We know what's happening. People are arguing amongst themselves. Let's stop it. Let's pull together and do it. It's very, very hard for me, for all the years that I've followed Wednesday, to see the state the club's in. How do you explain to your kids or your grandkids about the Waddle days, the Hurst days? They don't believe you, right? How do you do that? How do you explain how such a great club with a fantastic stadium, we've got a guy who's let the stand get shut? How's that possible? We're talking about player welfare. We're talking about people walking away for nothing. We're talking about players going on strike at Sheffield Wednesday. What the hell is happening? As a fan base, we've got to do something about it. We're trying on all angles, but we're not the whole of the fan base. I think one of the past chairmen said that there's at least 500,000 people in the world linked to Sheffield Wednesday. If we can get a fifth of that to do something, it's an unstoppable tide. It's organising it and doing it. You've got to do stuff on your own as well. There's only as much as we can possibly do. But I really do want everybody to, that we're all Wednesday, aren't we? Is absolutely spot on. We've got to do something, every one of us, and try and stop this crap that's going off at this football club. Thank you.